Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I want to talk to you about a couple of topics in this video. Number one, some good news about Julian Assange. The second thing that I want to talk to you about is a Palestinian army being formed under the leadership and by the training of the Pakistani army. And the third thing that I want to talk to you about is the resignation of the deputy head of the Israeli National Security Council and what he said after his resignation. I'm going to start off with Julian Assange. So obviously Julian Assange, he was ordered to be extradited to the US after the police in the UK, they took him from the Ecuadorian embassy, and now he's being granted a right to appeal. This is a very important decision that shows that there is a level of independence when it comes to the judicial system in the UK. His legal team argued that under the First Amendment in the US, he wouldn't be able to exercise his full rights as promised by the US. They said he can exercise his rights under the First Amendment. They believe there are reasons to suspect that he wouldn't be able to. They accepted reassurances from the US that there wouldn't be any capital punishment, but that he wouldn't be able to exercise his full rights due to his case being a national security case. This is something very important for independent journalism, for people who push the boundaries and stretch democracy to its limits, which is something very important because in democracies, I believe this is something that should constantly be reviewed and reformed and constantly tested as well. And you can't close people down and shut people down just because they're saying things that you do not like, and then label them as some sort of a threat to national security. So that's number one. Number two, we had an interesting report in the Israeli Channel 14 that some of the Palestinian Authority armed forces are being trained in Pakistan, and that wasn't public knowledge to some of the authorities and the Israeli security forces in the West Bank. Apparently they were training in Pakistan on several artillery, sniping, parachuting, and what's concerning to them, to Israel Channel 14, according to that report, is the fact that some of these people are affiliated with some of the resistance movements in the West Bank. Now, we know that the armed forces of the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank are bound by their security agreements with Israel. In many cases, they actually confront the Palestinian resistance in the West Bank, and they actually killed one of the people who Israel wanted to take down for a while, just over 1 week ago. According to that report, they're being trained to form a Palestinian army if there were to be a Palestinian state, and they were concerned about it. The third thing that I wanted to talk to you about is we have more resignations in the Israeli security establishments. We had resignations from the army previously, now we're having more resignations. So there was a report in Haaretz about the resignation of the deputy head of the National Security Council, Yoram Hamo. They said Yoram Hamo, who resigned last week, wrote an official document presented to the War Cabinet that Israel's strategic action pattern failed the war and it cannot succeed. Senior officials in the War Cabinet who were exposed to the document said that they were under the impression that the outgoing deputy head of the National Security Council supports ending the war in Gaza at this stage. When he presented the document and with it in the presentation, the head of the NLA, Hanegbi, was enraged and responded to the words by cancelling. He collected the document and asked those present to ignore it. Despite the reactions to Hanegbi, the minister and cabinet member Gadi Eisenkot asked to discuss the document and wrote a document last week in which he extensively referred to his positions. The document was drawn up by Eisenkot, was distributed to a number of senior officials in political ranks in Israel. Gadi Eisenkot is still a member of the war cabinet in Israel, by the way, and this just shows the continuation of the split when it comes to the people running the war, running this genocide in Israel. According to a publication in News 12, the article continued, Hama also wrote in the document that, quote, without a quick solution, and in particular if the intense moves in Gaza end, there is a fear of turning the abductees issue into a perennial one with all the implications for national resilience, Israel's freedom of action, failure to achieve the goals of the war. It also was reported that he warned that the lack of governing replacement in the Gaza Strip could lead to a military regime in Gaza, military regime run by Israel, of course. And many people are warning from that, including Yoav Gallant, who made it public, opposing Benjamin Netanyahu's official position, pushing towards a military rule in Gaza, supported by, obviously, Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich. They continued, and he claimed that the challenge, quote, the challenge of being responsible for a military government for many days could return Hamas to power. This is another starking evidence about the level of split in the Israeli leadership, and more people in the Israeli military and security establishment, alongside obviously the political class and many in the Israeli society, confirm that what's happening is a massive failure from Israel and are calling to stop it and change the way things are run during the genocide in Gaza.